I think about the kids before that we saw, that before the training that we had, that we just didn't quite get there.
Yeah.
And I think back to, man, if I would have had this training sooner, how many more kids could we have helped, could we have saved? And that is something that it honestly brings tears to my eyes, because when I saw what happened to Lenny and literally saw his life be transformed forever, his entire family's life be transformed because of the care that we provided and the power of chiropractic and the power that PX brought in terms of helping us to identify how to address that the right way, it changes life.
Welcome to the Experience Miracles podcast, where we help parents find hope, answers, and drug-free help to overcome your child's chronic health challenges. I'm your host, Dr. Tony Ebel, and I'll be sharing my experiences as both a dad and a doctor on every episode. I can take the latest science and neurology of healing and break it down in the most simple and relatable way possible. We'll take on the toughest topics and answer your biggest questions through interviews with other amazing parents and leading experts, leaving you with practical action steps that you can take to help your child heal and thrive. It's time to expect and experience miracles. Let's get started. All right, Experience Miracles community. This interview today with Dr. Paige Roth is so much fun. It's really, really fun because Paige and I are really good friends. So if you enjoy sarcasm and if you enjoy really good friends, maybe just a little bit, or maybe a lot of it, depends on how you quantify things, giving each other a hard time while they simultaneously talk about the neuroscience behind PANDAS and chronic illness and motor tics and anxiety in kids, while they simultaneously share stories of hope and healing and transformation that we get to be a part of and help bring about every single day in our practices. Well, then this interview, this episode is for you. Dr. Paige is a fellow hope dealer. She is a PX doc, world-class pediatric and family chiropractor from God's country, baby, Des Moines. Now, I won't steal the thunder because we just come out of the gates, kind of having fun. So if you know anything about Iowa, which I know not that many people do, it's kind of this nice little small state in the center. And I think we're so happy because, most people just leave us alone, and that's a good existence. But anyways, Iowa State University, where I went, and then University of Iowa, those are the rivalries. And so Paige is a Hawkeye fan, so, she's really struggled her way through life. And then I'm a Cyclone fan and have lived an extraordinary life as a result of that. And so we get into that fun in the beginning, but most importantly, what you need to know is we really share an incredible story of healing through a little dude named Lenny. We are also going to have Lenny's mom and another dear friend of mine, Amy, here on the podcast. And right around this episode release too, because it's going to come out in the spring. And in the spring is when challenges like PANDAS, especially, so neuroimmune dysregulation, ADHD gets worse in the spring, anxiety tends to get worse in the spring, our kids with autism who have pretty much all the features of everything else, sensory issues get worse in the spring, motor tics get worse in the spring, and so we talk about that on this one. But what I want you to know about Dr. Paige Roth, and I don't even need to say it here on the intro and with her bio, because as soon as you get into this episode, you're going to be like, oh wow, my goodness, this is a fierce, advocating for other moms' mom. In fact, during the interview, she wears her beautiful baby boy and is the rock star mom of two ridiculously cute kids. We're going to put all the Instagram links to True Roots Chiropractic there in Des Moines, Iowa, God's country, for the practice and for all that they do there. We'll put all the links in the show notes. And if you do make your way over to their Instagram page and you do see Dr. Paige's beautiful family, you'll be like, okay, those are some seriously cute kids. And so you're just going to love this interview because it has depth to it, but it also has so much relatability to it. We go into Dr. Paige's story as to how she went from always being in this nervous system focused chiropractic world, but really, really being called into this perfect storm work, and what that has meant for the lives and for the kids and for the families that they serve. And then at the very end, we also get into a conversation we love to have, which is, what does it look like to prevent the perfect storm? What does it look like to really empower expecting moms and going through pregnancy and supporting those infants and babies from the very beginning? So this is a perfect storm, PANDAS, motor tics, anxiety conversation. And this is also in the coolest of ways, the opposite of that. It's a proactive family wellness. How can we with our kids get the most out of life? And it's a very empowering conversation. So especially for you moms, you are going to hear in this interview from a world-class pediatric chiropractor, very brilliant, very experienced, very highly skilled, but you're also going to hear from just a courageous, all-in incredible mother. And I'd add a third attribute for my good friend Paige. She's hilarious. She is absolutely so spicy and so sarcastic, which is why we became fast friends many years ago when we met, and will forever be good friends because we both roll in the same way. Big heart, big passion, love our science, and love our sarcasm. So get ready, kind of per usual with this episode, with this podcast. You just get it in some extra dosages here with this one. Get ready for Dr. Paige Roth of True Roots Chiropractic and one of the very best PX docs on the entire planet. Let's get after it. Hi, Dr. Paige Roth. I absolutely cannot wait for this one. And we are going to do our very best, aren't we, to keep it focused on the nervous system and patients and science. But we will do, as we always do on this podcast, and sneak in just the right amount of sarcasm. Are you ready for that?
I solemnly swear.
I solemnly swear. Perfect.
Best behavior.
Awesome. So with that in mind, knowing that we're going to talk about, oh my goodness, this work that we love, we're going to really get into our little man Lenny's story. And gosh, if the world thinks we're high strung and sarcastic, they should meet our friend Amy, right?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So it's cool. You actually get to come, and we're not just talking about that. And even though that's a full miracle story, we're going to use that as our catalyst into the bigger picture of the perfect storm and what it's done for your practice and your community and even your life. And so it's so fun because I think that's how this maps out, right? A lot of times it's one kiddo, or it's something even with our own health and our own family. And it just opens up these doors that we kind of didn't even know were there, right? And we find this depth to it. So we'll go sciencey, we'll go story, we'll go vision, and we'll go sarcasm. So let's start with some sarcasm, okay? All right. Before we get into perfect storm and the challenge with chronic health, okay, with kids developing nervous systems, I would like to know, why do you think the average Iowa Hawkeye fan struggles so much in life in general? Is it mentally emotional? Is it physical? Like, have you studied this? What do you think?
Yeah, being a lifelong Hawkeye fan, I will admit, there's a lot of ups and downs, more downs than ups. But I'll tell you what, the Hawks may be disappointing, but I don't think there's anything more disappointing than being an Iowa State fan. Like, y'all come out like you beat the Hawks, but then you just blow the tournament. Yeah, have a great season. It's like, we're gonna win Big 12, and then you just go down the leg. So I may not be sitting in the best seat, but you don't either.
So it's healthier for you because you give up before you even begin.
100%. Yeah. Like, I really don't give my hopes up anymore. I mean, our basketball team, we've got a bunch of D2 players coming in. Yeah. Watching Florida win the other night. It's like, we can play against. Yeah. Like, we're going to be good. We'll be solid.
But from like you're a hard charging, high energy, crazy funny. You love to live life full out. How do you, like, for your nervous system, and it's so slow and it's so boring, how do you watch it? Do you just drink a lot of coffee ahead of time and kind of like dig in that way?
It's called lifelong commitment. I'm very loyal, Tony. I'm just a loyal person. Okay. And
all right. So loyal that, like every other Hawkeye fan on earth, you didn't actually go to Iowa?
I did for 2 years. I did. I was for 2 years, and then I transferred, and then went to UNI. So I am. It was too fun. Oh yeah, having way too much fun. Yeah. I had to go get serious and decided to be a doctor. Yeah. So I couldn't stay at Iowa.
Nothing's more fun than the library and the nursing home. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So now that we have that recorded, that's all I wanted. Okay. So Chris, we'll let them decide whether they keep that for sure.
That's getting cut.
Gosh almighty. All right. So too fun. So let's go into your story as a chiropractor. Yeah. So obviously we have fun there with college, undergrad, Iowa versus Iowa State, and all the stuff that is just local to us. Yep. So when did chiropractic find you? When did this turn to go to that school? So then you would go to Palmer, so you become a chiropractor. What was the spark?
Yeah. So I grew up in a household. My mom was a nurse. My dad owned a grocery store. So entrepreneur. And I really wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I wanted to help people. I loved what my mom did. But I wanted to I wanted to be the owner. And so this led me down the road of looking into different healthcare practices, did some shadowing and PT. God bless those people, but just wasn't for me.
Yeah. High school time?
High high school and a little bit into college. Yep. Okay. And what I soon realized, this is back, this ages me a little bit, but during this time, all chiropractic offices were last names, right? It's like Roth Chiropractic, all that. Yeah, I know, I'm old. And so I was like, wait a minute, if their last name is on there, they must own their practices. So I was like, okay, so this is a field of healthcare that entrepreneurs can really get into the door and own their own practices. So that's kind of a different story for me. Like, I didn't get into chiropractic because of like this, miracle, experience that happened in my life. Is literally because I wanted to help people and I wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Well, what a joyful existence, though, that you found out about early, because a lot of us inside chiropractic, that is just how God made us. That is literally our wiring. It's the combination of the two. And so the combination of the two is what makes you so dang helpful in creating more miracles. Because what happens is we go to chiropractic school and we get the training for the clinical delivery. Well, we would love if it was more training, right? We'll get into PX and everything else. But, and then to really, really actually bring it into the world, though, it has to have a vehicle of delivery.
And that's just it. Like, I remember, I'll never forget, I came home and my dad was like, oh, you drank the Kool-Aid. Because I had no idea. Like, I thought I was just going to help people with back pain, love sports, that type of stuff. And all of, the green books that got in with the right people and learned really what principle of chiropractic was. And I was like, oh no, like, this is way bigger than I ever could have imagined. Like, we're going to change the world.
We have good Kool-Aid.
Yeah, it's good. I was like,
it's organic. It's, raw sugar, not the right amount of sugar, not too much. Like, we make legit Kool-Aid.
Yeah, no red dye.
Would our Kool-Aid be spelled with a C, though? Break the brand mold a little bit? Yeah, I think so. Okay. All right. So you get into, you get undergrad done, you go to Palmer. How early at Palmer did you find neurologically focused, subluxation based, this kind of chiropractic? And was it like a night time? Was it an extra thing from school? Like a club meeting or that sort of stuff? Because the reason parents, we're on the Experience Miracles podcast, and I want to share this because we actually, like you and I, especially with our chiropractic story, we didn't find chiropractic until a certain stage of life. And then we didn't find this next level of chiropractic nervous system. Because one of the things that breaks our hearts about the podcast and the platform is, a lot of times it's just natural parent, human inclination where they're like, they find it, they get so excited, and they immediately also go into the emotion of, oh, I wish I'd have had this sooner. And I think I just want everybody listening to know that, like, it took us many laps around the track to find this stuff too. So where in school did you find the nervous system subluxation stuff?
Yeah, and you're exactly right. There's so much coming at you in school. I mean, it's hard, but I will say I was always very much so on a principle train in terms of focusing on the nervous system. I really never went down the road of like, I'm going to have this intervention. I'm gonna, all these things in the practice. I was with a bunch of people that were really nervous system based, but I didn't have the training that PX provides in terms of how to find subluxation. When to adjust, where to adjust. That all came from my training with you guys, through PX. But even opening, and that's the beautiful thing about chiropractic. You know this.
Yes, true.
There are some really bad chiropractors out there that still get good results, right? Yeah. It's because chiropractic is so powerful.
It is,
but when you take it to that next level in the training that PX docs can give you, that is where the miracles are at. And that is where I saw our practice just completely unfold, open up in ways that I truly never could have imagined.
I love you, my friend. This is exactly where I wanted to get with this chat. Perfect. So we're sequencing right into it. Just this morning in practice, we have another incredible team. It's a national world-class chiropractic day in Crystal Lake, Illinois. You're here. We've got the Corey chiropractic team from Canada. A bunch of people are flying into tomorrow. So
holiday.
It is. Yeah. Can we call it a holiday? Let's call it a holiday. PX Chiro holiday. 3-day holiday. We're going all out. Yeah, totally. So they were shadowing, and I was working with them and, working with intensive cases, which we're going to go there next with Lenny and some others. And so that's where the depth really shows itself, right? Where regular chiropractic is really, really awesome. And in fact, that shows the science of chiropractic. It's that effective that even if you run it out at, Dollar General level, like if you run it out at basic level, it still delivers unbelievable results for the majority of the population. But turns out God called us to serve not only the whole family population, but specifically in there, there's depth of neurologically challenged kiddos. We call them perfect storm kiddos, right? Yep. Who have such a depth of subluxation and nervous system dysregulation that it really takes over their life in a lot of ways. pause for a second before we go perfect storm. Go right to that opening of your practice. So everybody listening, Dr. Paige and her team had a really rockin' practice, subluxation based, nervous system focused, in the family arena, and you kind of didn't even know there was more until I show up, right? If PX shows up and all that. So what would you guys have done? I didn't know I was going to ask this question, so don't worry. It wasn't on your notes or mine. It's coming to me live here. What would care have looked like for Lenny, who we're going to go to next? I'm probably going in the wrong order. What would care have looked like for Lenny prior to PX? Like what kind of care plan and adjustments? And actually a question within the question, how would that have landed for you and your chiropractors if a PANDAS,
I'm actually really glad that you asked this because it's something I think about a lot.
Really?
It is. And it gets at me because I think about the kids before that we saw, before the training that we had, that we just didn't quite get there.
Yeah.
And I think back to, man, if I would have had this training sooner, how many more kids could we have helped? Could we have saved? And that is something that it honestly brings tears to my eyes because when I saw what happened to Lenny and literally saw his life be transformed forever, his entire family's life be transformed because of the care that we provided and the power of chiropractic and the power that PX brought in terms of helping us to identify how to address that the right way. Yeah. It changes life. And so it's something that I carry pretty heavily, that I'm like, dang, like I should have, like, that's on me. And I should have known it and done it sooner. But what we know now, I know without a doubt, like, I'm like, come on, like, where are these kids? And those are who we're hunting down now. And before I'd be like super stressed. If we had a really tough case, I was like, oh man, like, because you want to help
Would you have thought that maybe you need something outside of chiropractic? Would that have been an inclination from previous training or lack thereof, however that would be?
Yeah, I was kind of getting to that point, in terms of like primitive reflex, like those types of things.
Because that's where I was.
Yeah,
I asked because that's right.
Because that's what they would get to a point, and then I was like, man, they're just not quite there. We didn't quite get that breakthrough. What else do I need to be doing? So yes, around the time that I found you guys, I did some primitive reflex training, things like that, and there was power. Yeah. But it wasn't. It was another thing that was just going to get some results. As powerful. Yeah, no, it was not nearly as powerful as the work that we do. Okay,
this is cool. And parents, I love that. Thank you for going there with us. Because, I try and share that as much as possible. My journey with this, like it didn't, the depth of knowledge we have today and the clinical results we have today are unfortunately not what we had right out of the gates. And I actually, and here as well, I'll try and bring this around, you and I are trained pediatric chiropractors, not necessarily trained psychologists. So I'm trying to, but don't you feel like sometimes that's our job too?
100%.
Yeah, like every single room we walk into. They should have added that class, maybe an elective or something. Yes. But anyways, where I'm going with this is you can probably hear through Paige's story a very similar emotion that we have as parents when we find this, which is, oh, I wish I'd have known earlier. Mm-hmm. So we share that here on the podcast all the time to say, guys, I am certain that that's why PX doctors have a higher level of empathy and relatability to our parents and to our families than any other kind of doctor, because we've been on this trajectory too. And so that gives us such a great bond to really build these relationships with. And I think I know that's a big part of healing in a major way as well. All right. So let's go there. So, I'll try and set the story a little bit and then get to the questions about Lenny. So one of my very best friends. So, when I was an undergrad, I had my two very best friends were Amy and Rachel. And you guys
don't know how she was friends with you for so
It's a weird.
She's this beautiful, amazing, super cool girl. I was like, you're friends with Dr. Tony?
Which right there,
shell necklaces in college, guys.
And I was on the Jimmy John's and Busch Light diet. I hadn't worked out since I was done. I played baseball 1 year and then just immediately ballooned. Yeah. It was really bad. And actually, everybody listening, that's how you know Paige and I are greatest friends. This is also not studied, but I think it's proven in life. The more you go at each other, the greater your friendship. I absolutely love you so much, because if you'd have been nice to me during this podcast, I don't think we'd have aired it, honestly.
I'll just say, if there's any miracle on this podcast, it's that one right there. That Amy's not only your friend.
And then I married Christina.
And then you married Christina, 100%.
Yeah. If you don't believe in your potential in life, everyone, like I'm a good case study, of what molding. Christina calls herself the chief molding officer, that she has molded me to this potential. And it's an accurate title. And I think a lot of work to do yet, as we look forward. So Amy, Rachel, so we're molecular biology nerds. That will also make sense.
Oh,
Amy's a nerd, so nerdy.
Nerdy.
So, well, we're chiropractors. You're pretty nerdy too.
Yeah.
So biology and genetics are my majors. So Amy and Rachel, just such good friends because we're all sarcastic. We're all nerdy. And we're all just Midwesterners who family, that stage of life is different, but we're just meant to be parents. Like, that was coming eventually. And so I can remember literally the moment, like what the trees looked like. So Amy texts me and gives me a call, and I'm driving home from the practice one day, and I just stop on the driveway because these texts came different. Usually we're texting about, something with the kids celebrating life or sports stuff, still Iowa State stuff or whatever. So we've stayed in communication, but these texts came different. Like, hey friend, can I talk to you? Mm-hmm. And so this call, and I'm talking to her driving home, and I stop at the end of the driveway because it just hit me. I'm like, oh my gosh, Lenny's not like just having some sensory issues. Lenny's not just having strep infections. Amy, I think on that phone call had already done enough research about PANDAS, and we're going to have her on the podcast and have her share it too. But she didn't know the depth of the neurological stuff. They were just investigating that. And so within a minute or two of the conversation, because this is what we do, we take it in these cases. I'm like, oh, they're going to be up against it with this little rock star. And the first place and the first person I thought of was you and True Roots. And so the conversation with Amy had a lot of the science and a lot of I kind of did a day one, day two, if you will, kind of like a consult and report, but it was all with one goal. Get Lenny scanned tomorrow. Yeah. And I think it might have been tomorrow. It was quick.
It was very quick.
So can you tell it from your perspective and then share with us Lenny's case history? Let's kind of go into his case history, and I know we're on a podcast, so we can't show the scans, but go ahead and kind of give the high level. Can you give us Lenny's 4-in-1, and then we'll keep going into the miracle him?
Yeah. So obviously you reached out, and it was such an honor to be the place that you thought of. Obviously we just felt really humbled and honored to be there, but also a big burden of responsibility too. I was like, oh man, like this is Tony's girl. Like I gotta show up, but I knew we were ready. 3 years ago, I would have been probably really, really nervous, but I was like, no, we're ready for this. Like this is the place we're gonna be able to help this kiddo. So yeah, they came in and he got scanned. I remember looking at his scans, having some conversations with you about the scans as well, because you want to be involved with the case. And I remember having them come in for that report, and I just remember being like, I'm going to I have the answers we have the answers. These scans are showing exactly what's going on. They did. It was like so clear. It was crazy.
Right out of the plate.
That all the time. Right. It's not always like that. Yep. And what we saw what was going on in Lenny's scans is that he had a lot of interference and subluxation going on in that C4, C5 area, which we know right smack in the middle of that cervical spine, which is going to be affecting right where that strep essentially got in the throat, got caught and got stuck
for a long
time. So his initial symptoms came on where he, was sick. He had a lymph node swell up really big, kind of down through his groin. He would get better, get sick again, and he was just in this yo-yo of getting better.
Back quite a long bit. Lots of antibiotics.
Oh yes, this was in the fall, and this was springtime. They tried everything, all the tests, nothing was coming back, and so they just were like, "What in the world is going on?" And then after that, a few months later, that is when the motor tics and the behavior challenges started to kick in. And so
seasonal changes.
Yeah, with seasonal changes. So this is coming into spring. So this is springtime, and this is when
are we coming up on a year of Lenny's?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Oh, God. It works in the most crazy ways. That just hit me. Yeah.
Yep. And so I think the big concern for Amy and the rest of him was these motor facial tics that he was having. So she had sent me a video that the teacher had recorded of him and the tics that he was having. And I was like, oh. Yeah. This is really affecting him. And so and the other thing the scans were showing, the one best thing about going over scans with families that I like to do is give them the hope. Oh. You can look at that scan and see all the bad, but man,
and the bad actually is the good.
Yes.
When you're just here it is.
It's point blank. I don't have to explain this. It's here.
Yeah.
And then we went into, how deeply written is this? And the good news with Lenny's case is his depth finders.
Yeah.
the HRV, the DTG, they were pretty good.
Okay,
like he was hanging in there. And so that gave us the utmost hope of like, he's going to do fantastic.
And doesn't that fit now that you know Amy and Everett?
Yes.
The love and the support and the circle and even their extended family and their, you know, the cul-de-sac is full of amazing people around this kid. And so let's go there actually, because, you know, in this case, we were able to find that Lenny's PANDAS, all the symptoms, the chronic illness, the motor tics, some of the anxiety, you know, the classic, he was a very classic PANDAS case, turned out to be, right? And so we're actually going to release this episode, your interview, in conjunction with a deep dive on PANDAS that I'm going to do. So it's really cool how it's going to come together. And so right there, and we have our scan patterns that were there. Can I ask this question? Because I was on the phone, you know, and doing videos versus being there in person. The other great thing about Amy and Everett are they're exactly like a lot of, especially Everett, he's training literally in the medical world, right? And brilliant. And so and then Amy, you know, decent, just she's my friend. Yeah, totally. Yes. And so, love you, my friend. So the truth is they have other options to a degree that they're considering. There's other voices in their head that are kind of saying, oh, it could be this and we could do that. Do you remember in that day one, day two, what was the emotional status of mom and dad, in that moment, if you were to say it?
It was intense. You could tell that they wanted nothing more, just like any parent. You know, they wanted answers and they wanted, you know, their son to get well. But without a doubt, you could see hope.
Yeah, good.
Get lit back up in them, you know, from coming in to when they left, like there was no question whether they're starting. Like, you know, most parents are like, yeah, we got to talk, you know, it was like, okay, where do we sign? When does he get adjusted? Like, it was like, we are heading to the adjusting room. They were ready. Yeah. And that was something that like, I knew they trusted us. And that's something too, you know, for parents to hear, like, if you're going and seeking a PX doc for help with your child, like, you've got to be all in. Yeah. And you've got to trust that they know what they're doing, because if there's constant confrontation and like you have the right to question, don't get me wrong, but like you've got to go all in. You can't just put one foot in and one foot out and expect to get good results.
Because also the nervous system is so dysregulated and exhausted. We've done a bunch of episodes about this. In fact, there are some of the top performing ones, as you would imagine, because this is a conversation in practice. This podcast is just our day-to-day job spread out all over the world, right? It's kind of crazy. And so the top questions are like, oh, you know, I'm probably, you know, there's too many things mixing in at one time, even though each individual thing may be good. And so if you're 1 quarter in on the nervous system chiropractic, 1 quarter in on this detoxification, 1 quarter in on primitive reflexes, they each are individually, you know, have their role. Foundationally, the nervous system has to be the first thing, but also that other stuff can compete. And so that was a big part of it that we needed to communicate with.
And how we communicated.
Because there's a big functional, like with PANDAS.
Totally. Yeah, totally. And how we communicated that though, is that the nervous system went offline first.
It did.
So we got to get that back online first before we throw, not that there's not value in those other things, but that's what went offline first. We need to get that back online first. And that's what that first plan really was about. High intensity, making sure that we're getting the stress out, making sure that he is able to bring on.
What did this plan look like? Do you remember what were some of his first responses to? Because she documented a lot of this. She was taking pictures.
Yeah, we have the coolest video. Like she's
world class.
I'm just going to go out here and be bold, but like, I really want to hire Amy, like secretly, just like as my marketing PR. She got to
just go do the Perfect Storm talk all around.
And I swear, if you try to steal her, like I will take you out because you stole all these things. I have some animosity towards you.
Have I already reached my cap of people?
I think you're out. I think I'd say, I think.
All right. Okay.
But no, like literally, she has been the voice for us and had so many referrals coming in, and we're so grateful. But with Lenny, yes, we gave him a pretty heavy care plan because he needed it. We knew that we needed to train and rework that nervous system to get it back to where it needed to go.
Spring too, you're right in the thick of the storm.
Yes, the storm. Yes, it was thick. And he's a busy kid. Holy cow, does that family go? Like they still post, photos. It's like dusk and he's out there like still shooting hoops after like a Saturday of, basketball. I'm like, holy cow, these kids do not mess around. They go. And it's amazing. And like, I'm convinced that Lenny is literally going to be a professional athlete someday and be on this podcast sharing his story.
He better put 100%. He better put you and I in the box.
100%.
We're at 50. If we're not 50-yard line or front row, we better be up.
He's probably going to go to Iowa, but whatever.
Well, then he won't make it pro. But totally.
But as far as this care goes, so we knew that he needed a lot in the beginning to get him out of that storm, and so we did adjust him daily for the first 2 weeks. Sometimes in these cases, it would have been more, but because those depth finders, like we talked about, we just really felt like he was going to respond well. And then all the things he talked about in terms of the family life, all the things were lining up. So we adjusted him 1 time a week for a week, and almost instantly.
1 time a day.
Or sorry, excuse me, 1 time a day. Yep. 1 time a day for 2 weeks.
Yep.
Okay. And through that, like right out of the gate, we started seeing changes. Like it was wild. Almost instantly, those tics started to diminish and go down.
And they don't always go first.
No, and like we've been there.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you want to tell them like, hey, this is going to take time. It's going to take repetition, especially when you see this. But Lenny responded incredibly well, incredibly fast. So that allowed us, after those first 2 weeks, to then transition him down to 3 times a week. Yeah. We did keep him there for an extended amount of time for a lot of reasons. One, just because we knew how gnarly this thing can be. And the relapses that can happen with PANDAS.
Pretty common.
PANDAS. Yeah, it's very common. In the storm that he was in, right? Like,
for sure.
We're in springtime. He was starting all these sports. And they weren't slowing down. That's like, I was like.
And that was actually cool. To their credit, they kind of asked us. They're like, hey, should we? And it's always, 6 and 1, half dozen the other. But what my inclination always, we kind of built this into PX Docs, is the only way to know is to go. Our goal is to get Lenny to the pros, right? And so you can't just have everything shut down and not go out, because you don't really know if it gets better. Yeah, it's not a real measure, because you gotta live life, and our goal is to get them to life optimized, maximize, and rocking it, not to remove them from life and say, hey, the best way you can be healthy is avoid everything. That's actually pretty medical.
Yeah,
right?
Totally. For sure. From there, he just continued to get better and better. And like I said, there was a few setbacks here and there, but nothing nothing major to, take us back to the beginning. It was just like, we had a few tics today, something like that.
How quick he would get through those. Those incredible. Usually will linger longer, because healing from neurological stuff, perfect storm stuff, but especially healing from PANDAS and tics, it's usually pretty roller coastery. And he had a bit of a roller coaster, but his blips were real, short. He's really a miracle kid.
Yeah, he really is. Yeah. So one of the coolest parts of Lenny's story is, I'll never forget the video that his mom sent of during that winter time when him and his dad were just trying to, hit some balls inside, and he literally could not even hit a ball off a tee. And you could just see the struggle and the frustration in his eyes and just in his body language. And then now it's summer and he's playing baseball and he's hitting dingers and he's just a different kid. And just to see that light back on him and that enjoyment and to be able to do the things he loves. Yeah. It's one of the coolest things.
Because that's what's so cool. And this could go 50 different ways for 50 different families, more than that. Like, we, as PX doctors, we don't care, or, whether it's a sports family or it's whatever, we just want whatever that family and that kid wants to do and loves to do. We want them to experience. Totally. And so, because the reverse of that is, like, they want to do it and can't. Their health and their nervous system takes them away. That's what really pulls at our hearts, and that's why we celebrate so much with Lenny. So when we look at Lenny now, that's what you would see if you're on Instagram and Facebook. He's hitting dingers. He's there, and then they go from baseball to basketball training, and then remember we basically use like some sort of athletic training performance center for his, because we wanted to do a little OT-PT.
Yeah, and they're like, "How about this?" It's like, I was like, "Sure, guys."
Most Amy and Ev thing ever. I remember her. Like, I know I talked to Paige about this, but I just wanted to get your talk too. Like, what do you think about going to this performance center for OT? And I was like, let's go. I'm
not going to tell you different.
It's your family. You guys are rock stars, and it worked out perfectly.
It did. It was amazing.
It was amazing.
It was really the icing on the cake with his.
Awesome. Okay. So I love that. I love that we went into the depths of that story. Obviously, super personal connection to me. I am just, you and your team at True Roots, I can think back to one of the first seminars when your doc team was there, and the level of just buy-in and all in and passion and compassion that you guys have. That's how you're wired as humans. And then the questions you guys asked, like, you were prepared for depth. You have always come to seminars and shadows and said, hey, what's next? What can we learn more? And so you guys, True Roots, shout out literally to the whole team. This is where the toughest cases go. You guys are built for it. And so and I know the answers to this, but I want you to share with the podcast, because it's going to happen. A lot of moms listening out there, honestly, a lot of them are going to be the Amy's, who are going to be the advocates, right? Who are going to literally, I always have this image of all you rock star, PX docs, pediatric chiropractic parents who have had these miracles happen. You're just ripping around neighborhoods in your minivan. You're going to soccer. You got a bullhorn and you're just like, subluxation, So we got a lot of them listening, and quite a few of of them are going to go back to chiropractic school too, right? And oh, by the way, do we need you? Come on board.
Let's go.
What role do you want?
Hired.
You want to do marketing? You want to run the back office? You want to go to chiropractic school? You are hired because you've lived it. And so no one is, what's that Rory Vaden quote? You're best positioned to help the person you once were.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's us in this way. Okay. So what has happened to the practice since you guys stepped into this perfect storm world, and what do you love to share with your community and your patients about the perfect storm? Like, what do you think is most transformational for them to know about this work?
Yeah. So when you have a case like Lenny, you get that experience of just being like, oh my gosh, we helped change this child's life. And it sets a fire within you because let's be real, like there are so many Lennys out there and so many kids that are struggling with neurodevelopmental challenges. And that was something that was a deep calling where I said, hey guys, like we are being called to this. Therefore, we need to make sure that we are going after these kids and making sure we're doing everything we can to get our message out there to the parents because they don't know. Yeah. There's not a single person, that comes in that are like, oh my gosh, I knew about this, but I was just sitting on it. It's like, no, they come in, they're like, I wish I would have known this sooner, all this. So for
they'd come in at 1 a.m. if you were open.
Yeah, 100%.
Once they first find it.
Yeah, and they still try to. They'll call. You're like, no, we're close.
Yeah, totally.
We'll see you.
Just had a baby.
Yeah.
By the way, if you haven't listened in, there's a baby on Paige's that little Will Jr. is hanging with us. Chillest, cutest. Yes. But your kids are such ridiculously, indescribably cute. Doesn't make
They're well adjusted as well. So
gosh almighty.
They're in good shape.
And then real quick before we're done, can we come back to Rose's story? I just need the chicken.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get there. I got it in my notes.
See,
Patsy. Oh, sorry, Patsy. Oh, she's going to take me out now.
Yeah, she will. She's so big. Yes, we will. But it really lit that fire in us. And so we began marketing more to reach these families. And so through the Perfect Storm workshops, we do those a couple times a year. And then just in our marketing in general, there is power in Instagram. Moms are on Instagram. And so a lot of our messaging, a lot of that was really targeted, to these individuals to make sure that we got our message out there and we're able to help as many kids as we could.
It's where the miracle begins. We cannot help a child with our hands until they hear our words, right? 100%. So I am a living, breathing whiteboard, aren't I? Yes. You can probably describe me better than I can describe me, right?
I love it. I'm so grateful for you because, we've had plenty of people, once again, you're just coming back to this platform that you've created. Yeah. Like, I'm forever grateful to you for just the work that you do and just the message that you get out there and the engine that you have to do it. We were talking about this out. This man just runs. He just goes and goes and goes.
No endurance in an athletic capacity. But in a content creation capacity, yeah. If you ever to see me do a CrossFit workout, here's what it looks like. A lot of CrossFit workouts are 3 rounds, right? So I am a raging bull, fast twitch, all in sort of dude. So round 1, and back in the day before the bush light hit, right? Decent athlete. So round 1, you'd be like, wow, this guy. Yeah. Wow, can do some things. Round 2, your interpretation of the situation would start to change where you're like, well, this is changing significantly. And then round 3, you'd be like, get the defibrillator out. This guy's going to die. Like he should have not come out of the gates quite so heated. Actually, I did 3 podcasts in a row yesterday because I'm crazy. And I did the Zoom training. I did our clinical training talking about plateaus and regressions in tough cases. And then I did 2 podcasts after. My Garmin is programmed to pick up if I forget to plug in a workout. And I got done. I literally, Paige, hadn't moved from a 2 foot radius, right? And I hit my workout goal and my step goal. And because I was talking with my hands.
I love it. It does not surprise me one bit. But back to that, the work that you do in the platform that you provide, it brings us those cases. Awesome. And that's something that we're so grateful for. And because of your voice and because of the messaging that you get out there, those families get to hear it and on a much higher level than, what we can do within our 4 walls. So you're doing it in a way, globally, and we're forever grateful for it.
It's cool how God has this lined up. It's more than cool. Isn't it hard to actually talk about this work and give it words?
So hard.
It's so hard because what we're doing our best with, if whatever words are more exceptional, more incredible, that actually describes the miracles that these kids and families go through and how much joy that we experience doing this. But what's crazy is just how things are lining up, you know, metaphorically, how mountains are moving and stars are lining up, where the world is waking up at a level. We've been in practice a minute, right? And so the world is waking up and saying, okay, well, not only have we exhausted traditional medicine, but, you know, they're also, especially parents in this tribe, they've gone to pretty great lengths of detoxes and supplements. Are you seeing that in Des Moines too, that people are coming to you and they've already, you know, instead of having 20 medications, they have 20 supplements
100%.
And the kid is still struggling, right?
And that's, you know, part of this work too. It's like, you know, we've got to be, instead of being the last stop, somehow get to the top of the first stop, you know, being the first stop, and we're getting there.
Yeah. Because then everything else after that. I mean, Lenny's a great case too. We kind of thought there might need to be a few more things down the road, and he just turned out to heal like a boss and get after it, which just happens when you're an Iowa State fan. You do things exceptionally well, better than others. Okay. So let's round in third here and bringing this one home for you and your crew and for your patient community. I know you guys with True Roots, you do it like us. Those people are like family to you, right? You're just in it. So what is the next most exciting thing for you? And I'm going to lead you because I think I know where it is. Okay. How exceptionally exciting and important is it to try and step upstream and prevent the perfect storm too, right? Yeah. And you've got a beautiful sleeping all the way through a podcast, rockstar little one. So, this is unfair to ask you to summarize this, you know, but the work you do with preconception and fertility and pregnancy, like how is that going? Where's your heart there? And what do they need to know about that to share with the world to prevent the perfect storm? So I know you and Dr. Allie were just in here cruising and rocking it. What does that look like to you?
Yeah. So if I'm being honest, that's probably where my heart is most exploding in terms of that, because I am a mom, right? And I can relate to that on a really real level. And one of the questions like Allie had for me was like, you know, what's changed? You know, what's the biggest change since you've been a mom? And honestly, I think it's that I care a lot less about the little things and way more about the things that are most important to me. And some of that being children, their health, and being an advocate for moms and for these families that deserve a voice. And that is like, you just become a mom and you get this fire and edge that you're just like, I don't care anymore. Like, this is my mission. This is my purpose. I don't have time to care about this other stuff because I've got kids on me. I'm nursing. I'm doing all this stuff. So it just makes you so much more focused on the things that matter. And that matters to me in a big way. And like this world needs it. And people, that's another thing. People don't understand the importance of being under chiropractic care during a pregnancy and the effect that it can have on a child. The number of babies that you see coming out, strung out, wound up. I mean, it's not like they were like, you know, there's stress that's happening.
And it's not just birth trauma. I never thought the birth trauma guy would ever say the words just with birth trauma and
chaos before it and the negativity and just the neglect, honestly.
Keep going there. So for mom, it's in the best of ways, it's hard for us as pediatric chiropractors to take our eyes and take our hearts off the kids' health. Yep. But in this space specifically, in order to really maximize the heck out of the kids' health, we have got to shine the light on moms and dads in that preconception, fertility, and pregnancy journey. And it's not just that their nervous systems are is this the first place that the medical world tries to steal hope and disempower? Not tries to, they do if left to their own devices. This is where they really capture women, right? And they really take away their sense of authority and autonomy, right?
Yes, it's for sure. It is a scare tactic that pregnancy should be scary, that it's not natural, that their bodies don't know what they're doing and they need to control it. Yeah. And it leads to these interventions so often that lead to outcomes that these moms are like, I don't know how this happened, but it's not their fault. It's a broken system that has them set up for failure, which in turn results in a lot of these kids to really struggle out of the gate. So that is something we see a lot of pregnant moms in our office, and I get in trouble when my doctors are like, hurry it up. I get a pregnant mom in front of me and then she's got some questions on, what she needs to be. I was like, oh, you need a doula, you need a middle. Like,
well, there's a shot clock.
Home birth? Like, let's go.
There's a shot clock on those patients, right?
Docs are just just like cut it. And I'm like, okay, let's just get coffee. I'll see you after this, because
our pregnant patients and then babies, they awesomely take the longest because the littlest of our patients come with the biggest list of questions. We've all been there for sure.
And even this morning, like, I'm sitting out there, I get a text from a friend, that's over in Iowa City. And this is just real full circle on this. Sends a picture of their little girl. She's 2 months old. She's laying, like this, their head tilted back. And she's like, hey, like, she doesn't really like to turn to this side. And they did a home birth, all the things, all the crunchy things. And she's like, do you think I should go to a chiropractor? And I was like, these are friends of mine. Like, what the heck am I doing?
You're like, ChatGPT, help me write this text back so I don't.
Non-mommy, I would have been like, well, yeah, I think it's probably, no, I was like.
You're like, I'll stop on the way home.
I literally went on PXDoc. They don't live in Des Moines, unfortunately. Found them.
Instead of fly home, drive home.
Literally went on PXDocs, found them a chiropractor close, sent it to them. I said, you need to book this.
Send the check crew? Yeah. Are they congruent life? Is that what it was? Yeah, game on.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. And I've referred to them a bunch of different times. True. I was like, this is where you need to go and you need to go now. And I just laid it out. I was like, hey, like this can affect your child, not just now. It's not just a neck issue. Like this is a nervous system issue. And there can be a lot of challenges down the road. Like you need to get her in, get her checked. And these are your people.
This afternoon would be the most,
Literally. And she did. She texted me back. She's like, we're on the schedule. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Okay. Game on. Well, you know what, my friend? This is the force it takes to, we got to fight fire with fire in terms of our mentality, in terms of our all-inness, in terms of our compassion, our conviction and courage. And you better believe it. Once you have those babies of your own, if we were pretty unstoppable before, now there is a full force of unstoppable. I love everything you just said because it was such a great perspective for me. It's like, that probably explains a lot about my mentality. Once you have those babies and you have those kiddos and you've seen them, and again, just live, and it doesn't have to be the transformation. You can have the optimization of it that's the ideal. And then also you can have the transformation, and they're both amazing. And then you just become like, you know what, mom and dad and kid, we got you. Yeah. We are built for this. This is what we're made for. This is what we're doing. So, I'm going to have you, cause our shot clock is wearing out here with Will Jr. Totally. So, for those, I got to check the stats and see what kind of, they're in God's country, what kind of amazing level of Iowans we have listening in here. But can you tell us about, your practice, your purpose, your team, and, where they can get connected with you and your story a little more, and then I'll take it home.
Yeah, 100%. So I'll just start with just giving all the glory to my team. We wouldn't be anything without the team we have. Like I get to this awesome opportunity to be on this podcast and, be the spokesperson. But at the end of the day, like they run the show. We have the most amazing team, most amazing doctors. They put in the work and create just this extraordinary experience for every person that walks through our doors. And that's something that we're really big on is obviously we want to deliver incredible care, but we want that experience to be incredible because so many people that come through the healthcare world, it's gross. It's stale. You're not listened to. It's gross. And so to be that light in our community and just to be there for our people, to be an option, that they can't get anywhere else, and have that experience that they're not going to get anywhere else, and have them come in and just feel like they're at home is something that we're always striving to do. And so that's really the biggest part of our mission, obviously to help, as many people as we can along the way. Kids and mamas, are at the center and core of our focus. But what's cool about our practice too is I can go into a room and adjust a 95-year-old man, and the next room could be a 2-week-old baby, and that's just the beauty of chiropractic and the care that we provide. And we're just on mission to bring that amazing care to every individual in that Des Moines community. It's
amazing. So putting it together, which is the hardest job. I was joking with you before, like the hardest job ever is the podcast interviewer, right? Where you're trying to, just make sense of all of this awesomeness and recap it. But that's what you and your family and your kids deserve. The foundation of what we deliver is that nervous system focused care and the adjustment. And if it was just that, by the way, that'd be pretty awesome. Like that's the actual healing capacity of it. But what we know with the way that traditional medicine and this crazy world that we're in now, and it's changing and it's shifting and it's going to get to where it needs to get. It's going to recenter, and recalibrate and reorganize itself. But we do know that we come in with so much fear and so much disempowerment, and we don't feel like we have doctors that listen. We don't feel like we have a tribe and a community around us. So what we've done with our practices is we've said, hey, you're going to get adjusted here, but that's not all.
Yeah.
You're going to get absolutely loved on. You're going to get an incredible experience. We are going to educate, inspire, inform, and empower. And so moms, dads, kids, bring your dog. Truth is like...
Your dog's there most of the time. I don't adjust dogs, but he's there a lot.
Okay, so you will experience miracles and healing, not only from what happens on the table, but we need to get you in there because that's just the place in your community. These PX Docs practices, they're literally hope dealerships. They're like this oasis of awesomeness in a community that you may not have even known was there. So if you don't have one yet, go to the directory, find yours, let's go. You know how an email has PS? And a lot of times it's like, that's the good stuff at the very end of it. Or good movies where they show like the bloopers at the end.
Yeah.
And you got to stay. And that's like the funny part. Yeah. Can we do a Patsy blooper? Can you share the miraculous, true, miracle, hope dealing story of Patsy the chicken?
Oh, Patsy girl.
Yeah, let us have it.
What a gal. So yes, I live on an acre in the city of Des Moines to my husband's demise. Like absolutely cannot stand these chickens and takes care of them, mind you. Like I took care of them before babies. Now I'm like, no, you got to.
It's also pictured him on the lawnmower with his 1 acre. And he's like, I want to do this so much more, but I got done in 4 minutes.
Yes, he's a great guy. Yeah. Shout out to Will.
Shout out to Will incredible. For sure. Big dog, yeah.
But yeah, this is a few years ago. It was like a year after we got the chickens, and living in Iowa, we get a lot of snow, and there's a big old snowstorm that rolled through, and we got 15 inches of snow, and we decided to go over to our neighbor Bart's for a few cocktails that evening. And forgot to check to make sure the coop door is shut, to make sure chickens were.
Chicken life.
They just weren't really on my mind at that time. And we wake up in the morning and, Will's out there trying to snowplow with his little snowplow. I remember like looking out the window, laughing at him. And then it like dawned on me. I was like, oh, should probably check on our animals. Like we have chickens out there and just snowed. And I like look out the window and like all I see, so be with me for the rest of my life. Just the 2 beady eyes of a chicken up at the top of 15 inches of snow, like nothing but eyes. And I was like, oh no! And I like sprint, like
so body buried in the
buried. All that's out is beak and eyes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this, it's dead. There's no way. There's no way. So I get up to her and all of a sudden I see the eye move. And I was like, oh my gosh, like she might be alive. Pull her out, not moving much, but still breathing. Thought about CPR. I was like, not going that far. Not that far.
Open your beak. Open your beak.
I'm drawing the line there. So I bring her into our house and lay towels down and put her in front of a fire. And Patsy girl starts to thaw.
For sure.
Little by little starts to come back to life.
Alive? Chicken. So what you're supposed to thaw the chicken before you grill it. I do know that, but this is the same but different.
And she, like, if you saw Pat, she's just like, we'll put a pic of her. I mean, she is a brute.
She's kind of like the fellas we were talking about the football games ahead of time. Yeah,
Iowa linebacker, man. And what's funny is she was my bonus chicken. When I ordered the chickens, they were like, would you like an exotic bird added in? I was like, is this a peacock? Is this an ostrich? Like, I was like, how do you say no to this? I was like, heck yeah. And instead we got Patsy, and by far the best chicken, still alive today, still kicking. Greatest chicken of all time.
Which is, it may seem like that was just a fun story, but I think neurologically, that's a story of absolute chicken resilience.
Honestly, if I can save Patsy's life, there's no doubt I can save
You're unstoppable.
And help your children.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think the nervous systems are super similar between a chicken and a child.
Just a healer. These hands just heal.
Well, with that, everybody, we did promise from the very first episode of the Experience Miracles podcast that we would, 1, get all sciencey and deal hope and explain the nervous system. Number 2, we would bring it into Iowa farmer terminology. So I finally had another homie right there. And then number 3, we would have as much fun as humanly possible on a podcast. And I think we set a record for this one. Yeah. I love your art, everybody. Seriously, Lenny's story is all over in so many communities. So take this one, share this one. As you always do, we are so thankful for our tribe and our listeners. You guys are, the feedback we get from this is wild. It's like when you got to practice and the DMs come in and they just hit your heart. Well, now they're coming in from Ireland to South Africa to Guatemala to you name it. It's crazy. So keep sharing, and we will keep training other PX doctors while doing this as well. So we love you. Thanks for subscribing. Send it out to everyone. Paige, thank you, my friend.
Thank you.